That is what's left of our rod bearings. Fine. Hello, welcome back to Skyrocket Automotive. I have in front of me a Datsun L28 engine. This is a 2.8 litre straight six, as fitted to the 280Z, funnily enough. We're rebuilding it because it went pop. So I've had the block tanked, I've had a light hone done on the bores, just because, crazy not to when we've had an oil starvation fault. This engine spun #1 rod bearing, just turned the con rod into an egg. It was like that. It roached the crankshaft, the crank needs a grind. You can see in a Saturday Club video what happened with regards getting the original crank ground, and I figure it might just be a good idea for us to just start again. I found a mint crankshaft from a wonderful chap called Duncan. He runs the Z Farm, if you guys are interested. What we're going to be doing today is rebuilding the engine. The first job, we're going to dry run our crankshaft. We're just going to pop the caps off. I just want to clearance them. I've measured the crank. The crank is as new. Polished all the journals, hand polished them, just gently. We've got some plastic gauge here. We're just going to double check, fine tune, never hurts to look. And then when the rings eventually arrive, we'll get the rods in with the pistons. We'll build at the bottom end. That's it. We're just going to put the block in with nothing else attached to it, and the engine's going to run. That's not true. That's not true. There's loads to do. If you're following along at home, fair enough. If you're following along at home, there's a few bits that I've got with me that will make life a bit easier for this. Obviously, first of all, you need a crankshaft that's round, and you need all your journals to be spotlessly clean. You want to know your measurements. I've done that with a micrometer. I haven't shown that in this video because it's a micrometer measurement, and if you're not confident with that, a lot of engineering shops will measure it for you. One of the things I've got here is some plastic gauge. It's fibrous plastic. You cut a little bit off, pop it on top of your crank journal, run your cap down, torque it, do not turn the crankshaft. Do that for all of them, then you take it back off, and then you've got these graduations along the packaging. You just hold those up, and that'll tell you your clearance. So there's that. Now, all engines are different. Back in a minute, because I left it over here. All engines are different. I can't exaggerate the importance of having a book for your engine. Forums are fine, but 20 times out of 10, there are 3 people giving 3 different specs, then they get into an argument, then they're talking about what they're having for dinner. The next thing you know, you're none the wiser. Go and get a book for your engine. This is the proper L28 service and repair manual. I've just done the engine mechanical section, but this entire thing is available as a PDF online. I've got all my specs. I've got everything I need in here. The best part is, because it's paper, ain't got to keep opening a screen, the battery doesn't go flat, you can draw all over it if you want to, you can write things down, and it's just there, ready to go. It will stop you being stressed, it will stop you from being distracted. You just quick, whoop, wah, and you've looked, done. Yeah. That's about the shape and size of it, really. There is a section in here on check-in, journal and main clearances with plastic gauge. That will tell us the measurement we need, and then I'll go and get the crank. We're going to clean this guy down. I've sprayed a preservative oil all over everything to stop it rusting. We are in Britain. Humidity is high at the moment because it's summer, and this is a nearly 100-year-old building. There's humidity, all right? Right, what I like to do, write it large on the bottom of the page, and then it's easier to see, because obviously they've got to fit a lot of information on these. So the tightening torque for the caps, 33 to 40 foot-pounds. Now, I like to split the difference and go in the middle. Your mileage may vary, whatever you want to do. What I will say is, as you can tell from the 7 foot-pounds variation in the torque specs, these are not overly fussy engines to rebuild as long as you're careful. Just pay attention. I don't mean that in a patronising way, I just mean, is anything obviously wrong? No. Okay, wicked. Let's move forward. Don't panic building an older engine. How I like to do it is whatever I've torqued this to, when I use the plastic gauge, is what I torque the crank to finally on my final tightening. Then you know you're tightening down to that spec. And somewhere else here, we'll find our oil clearancing. Right, so the standard clearance should be 0.20 to 0.72 millimeters, or 8 thousandths to 28 thousandths. So we'll write that down. Let's not panic about metric versus imperial. It really doesn't matter. Use the tools you have available to you. We're very relaxed here at Skyrocket Automotive. We don't like arguing in the comments. Let's just mellow out, all right? We're all here to learn, including me. Every day's a school day. That's what I love about this job. Right, he can go down there. These suckers are a ridiculously tight fit in the actual engine block. This has all been cleaned in a hot tank, like they do for cylinder heads. So I know I don't have to panic too much about schmutz. I'm just gonna give them a whiff of brake clean to get that penetrating oil off. The important thing to remember with these bearings, you tap them down flush first, then torque them. If you try and pull them down with the bolts, they're gonna run on the squonk, lay over at an angle, and you're going to end up with damage to the bearings or an inaccurate clearance. All right, I've just whistled out the 5 caps. There's nothing really special about those guys. However, number 4 on this is a 7 bearing crank. Number 4 on this engine, you see this groove? These are our thrust bearings. They're integral to the center bearing. So basically, that stops the crankshaft doing this thing. You tend to find on a lot of older British cars, when the thrust washers fail on them, you'll clutch in to change gear and your idle speed will drop 300-400 RPM, and it's time to start worrying at that point because they've probably fallen out if it's a Triumph engine. Don't know why. It's not uncommon at all. In fact, a friend of mine over at This Is Your Garage took a Spitfire engine apart. Thrust washers are just chilling out in the sump. Fine. Anyway, so the other thing to note, your caps all have an arrow on these engines that points to the nose of the engine. Pretty much everything is referenced to the front of the engine. Now I'm putting these down here in order because I'm going to clean them as they go in, so we don't have to panic too much, and this engine stand isn't exactly filthy. We'll put these guys here. With this rear cap, his job is to get on my nerves because he's really tight. Yeah, you see what I mean? You try and pull that guy down with a ratchet, you're pulling little curls of metal off left, right and center. So he has a big casting here for the rear main seal. Again, we'll get onto that in a bit. Don't need to panic about that right now. And the good news is, pretty self-evident actually which way around that goes. A word on journals. These are oil drillings. So this is where your crankshaft gets its oil pressure from. If these block, you got problems. If you spin number 1 bearing, like this fella did, granted he spun number 1 rod bearing, but same difference, same. The shell blocks that hole and starves that part of the engine of oil. Depending on where it's placed and the design of the oil system, you can actually starve other engine components. So I've had these all blown through, but we will give them another check over. You've got these notches here. Now they coincide with notches in the actual bearing shells. It's like a keyway sort of thing. That's how it locks everything together. Take a look at your bearings, make sure you've got the right size. We're on a standard grind here, the crankshaft's standard, so we don't need bigger bearings. And you'll see, standard, STD standard. So these are our mains. You'll also see this witness mark here. That witness mark is there on every journal, just through sheer time. And that's because we have another keyway in our mains. In case you're in any doubt at all about the arrow pointing forwards, your keyways usually go together. Everything I'm saying currently is specific to this engine. There are no hard and fast rules. Do your research. That's what the book's for. You get what I'm driving at. So I've put a preservative oil on this, hence she's mint. It's been sat here for ages while I get the parts together, and then we've got no surface rust. So it's time to get a lint-free cloth, brake cleaner. I've also got some isopropyl alcohol I'm going to come in with afterwards. I'm going to clean all of this down of any oil. Do not oil the journal, ever, ever, ever. The last thing you want is this bit being lubricated, because that's how they spin. That's one of the ways they spin. You want this surface to be almost grippy. You've got metal on metal contact with a crush, and that tension there should hold everything in place. Obviously the least resistant path is the oil inside the bearing shell, so the crank can whirly-boo. Now we're ready to clean up. If there's any chemicals that don't respond to the brake cleaner, they'll respond to the IPA. Go and buy yourself a big bundle of these microfiber cloths. You can color code them if you feel. I mean, I'm just pulling them off the rack and going for it. Obviously keep these somewhere clean as well. Give them a shake out, because sometimes they get lint in them from the factory. We just want to reduce any possible contamination. Set 2. You'd be amazed, despite how clean this is, the amount of crap that's going to come off these. Et voila. Know what I'm saying? I'm going to do brake cleaner first. It gives the brake clean chance to evaporate. And then I'll do the isopropyl alcohol. And by the time I get to that end, that should have evaporated too. Do you see already how dull these 3 are compared to that guy? That's what you want. You actually want this part to be flat, obviously, a little bit dull. What for grip? Shiny is for when you don't want friction. We want friction. Friction holds our bearings in place. Friction stops us from spinning shells. Friction stops us from starving oil in this context. If it's a rotating assembly and you've got surfaces there that are going to be bearing on things, then yeah, 100%. You want it as shiny as you can get it, ideally. Even then, there's a caveat to that. So you've got the crosshatch in your bores. Why do we put a crosshatch on our bores when we have them honed? What's the deal with the crosshatch? The reason we have the crosshatch on the bores is those microscopic scratches. You feel these bores, they'll feel silky smooth. But on a microscopic level, there's lots of little crevices. If that's the cylinder wall, that crosshatch gives you these little crevices for the oil film to sit against, and it keeps a little film of oil against the bores and stops the piston rings from hooking up. So again, this engine's been cleaned meticulously by a fellow I trust. We need this all gone. Now this engine calls for some silicone sealant towards the back, so we need to make sure that surface is totally free from grease, so we're gonna have a big rear main seal leak, which would suck. I tell you though, I ain't seeing any scoring, I'm not seeing any problems. So good, that's great news. You also wanna make sure the surfaces where the cap bolts down are spotless as well, because one little bit of grit in there, you're gonna hang up, you'll think you've torqued it down, things aren't sitting square. That's gonna do us for the brake cleaner. Same again, but with the IPA. That's the good stuff. I know, this isn't the really exciting bit where you fit a big blower to it and make 500 horsepower, but this is how you get there. Decent prep, decent, clean prep. Even after that course of brake clean, there's still a little schmutz on there. It's gonna feel great to get this car gone. No offense, old girl, you're gorgeous, but you've been in my way since Christmas. Yes, that's how long it's taken to get all the parts together for this engine. Not even sorry, they didn't have to find them. The amount of research, phone calls, sending random guys in Japan £900 in yen, having the conversion rate change just after I'd paid while the payment was clearing, so then having to pay more because the exchange rate changed. Then when it got here, having to pay another £200 worth of import duty for a camshaft means that I am not in the slightest bit sorry that this has taken as long as it's taken. Fingers crossed, this should last a very long time. Still pulling gack up. What's really funny is that if this is tedious for you guys, imagine how it is for me, because I guarantee you I've clipped out all the awkward silences. As you can see, spotless, absolutely spotless, and these flat plateaus here, completely spotless. So again, I like to clean these down. There is an oil on there to protect from corrosion. Guess what? That's going to affect our friction. So we want to clean those down as well. You see how there's a hole in one but not the other? That's because the ones with the holes are for the block. They have the oil way. They let the oil in, it whirly-woos round the bearing like so. There's no hole in the other side. The other thing that's important to remember on this engine is the con rods also have a little oil sprayer built into them. So the oil comes in through here, round the bearing under high pressure, and it finds its way inside the con rod up through a drilling, and it just, basically. You can just check again with a dry glove. Oh yeah, look. See the grip? And also, no sign of anything, just there. I don't think this guy's going anywhere. There's our keyway, there's our oil drilling, so he goes here. Make sure you don't snag your gloves, center of the bearing, make sure everybody lines up. Take your time, if something goes awry, just go again. There is a degree of crush in these, and what I mean by that is when you put the other shell in, they normally butt up nose to nose. I thought I'd save you guys the wash, rinse, repeat of watching me do that 7 more times. the important thing to get across is if you've got multiples in an engine build, just treat each one like it's the only one you're going to do. Be as careful with this one as you were with the last one and as you will be with the next one, and you'll be just fine. An often overlooked part of this process now is to measure bearing crush. People think they can stab the shells in and that be that. What you need to do, so I've gone away and got a couple of bits. First thing I've got is a set of feeler gauges. These don't need to be crazy expensive. These are just a cheapie set. They do metric and imperial, though the reason I've got them is because you quite often get metric and imperial measurements, and it's just nice to know. So our cap bolts are way too long for this job. So what we're gonna do, I've gone and found a bolt, the correct thread, pitch and size, and I had a die from a tap and die set. And the reason I've done that is I know this guy is rock hard for a start, so there's no flex, and I was able to run it up there. So this will squash down on the bearing. What we're trying to do is compress the bearing in, get it to basically lift this side. We push down nice and hard on this side, and then we measure with a feeler gauge. He's locked. That's as tight as we want to go. 0.03 of a millimeter. And sure enough, we're flush. We're finally at the stage now where we can throw some plastic gauge up in this and see what's going on. Oh, thank God this is the last time I ever have to pick this crankshaft up. No, it's not. You got to do it again in a minute. Okay, gentle. Crankshaft, as you can see, I've hand polished all the journals. Quite pleased with that, actually. I thought that come out quite nicely. Under no circumstances from this point on does this crankshaft rotate. All that cleaning was so that we can just do this in one hit. We're in the process of having an enormous thunderstorm right about now, which is awesome. So, plastic gauge clearances for this 0.020 of a millimeter to 0.072 of a millimeter, or 8 thousandths to 28 thousandths. This is the smallest plastic gauge you can get, and unfortunately it doesn't go down to 020, it goes down to 025. Yeah, problem, definitely, but what I'm going to say is we're going to try, because with this stuff and a used crank, I would like to think there's going to be variation towards the middle of the range. Okay, as you can see, this stuff is so thin. All right, so you want to lay this guy parallel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's all she wrote. Time to put the caps on. Don't be an animal, take the bolts out first. I'll see you in a minute, little plastic gauge. I'm being ever so gentle, by the way. Right, we're not tightening these all the way. Obviously, we've got to torque them. We're just literally going down until the bolt bumps the cap. Like that. I'm not putting any strain on them at all. I felt like you guys could do with a change in camera angle for a bit, if you're getting anywhere near as bored as I am. Righto, mate. We're gonna got the fucking things in. Jesus Christ, that took fucking forever. Give me fuel, give me fire, give me crankshaft tightening spec order sequence. Tightening sequence there, and our torque was... Right, so we need to go for the nominal between those two. I didn't explain that very well earlier, so let me explain it again, but better. The reason we want to go for a nominal torque spec, i.e. in the middle, the top measurement is an upper limit, the lower measurement is a lower limit. Go in the middle. That also will allow you some slop for your torque wrench not being 100% accurate. You know, if you decide you've gained an extra couple of pounds and you can really send it, all that sort of stuff. Go in the middle of the spec. So 36 to 37 foot-pounds. Let me go get a torque wrench. The sequence is done as though I'm stood that side, but I don't want you guys looking at my boxer shorts any more than I've already had to show you today. I don't know what it is, all right? I can't find a t-shirt that fits me. I've gone much, much bigger. Doesn't make a difference, just makes this look like a gazebo. I don't know. I try and get rid of the really annoying bits of it, all right? Sorry. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Right, now I want to go back and make sure everybody's torqued how they are supposed to be, because you'd be surprised how as things settle, things loosen back off again. Yep. Yep. I should say, at no point are these bolts moving. The torque wrench is clicking. That lets me know everything's good. If the bolt moves and then it clicks, we've just torqued it to the correct spec. We're just clicking, look. But it never hurts to check. And when you've checked, check again. Because then, should something happen and you're celebrating a job well done, you've got a nice frosty beer on the go because you've just built a rip snorting straight six, and you go, did I torque the crankshaft? Yes, you did, because you checked. Everything we're doing now should be representative of what the engine's going to be doing when it's together. So I will do this when I install the crankshaft properly as well. And now we get to undo it all again. Moment of truth. So you've got this smudge here. We hold our plastic gauge to it. And we go for the widest section. That is 0.38, yes. That's great. So we're past minimum, below maximum as far as tolerance. We are bang in the middle. I think this is going to make a good engine. I hope so. What I didn't want was for it to be way too tight, because that's how you start spinning bearings. Way too loose and we knock. I think we're all right, guys. I'll take it. Yes. Clean the excess plastic gauge off, clean the excess plastic gauge off the shells, and then we can install our crankshaft. Now, I would recommend for this job, assembly lubricant. I'm a big Permatex fan. Pretty much every one of their products I've ever used, I've just found really good. This stuff is really sticky, makes an enormous mess, and stays put. I want to get this everywhere on every mating surface. We don't want any dry sections that the crankshaft itself is going to physically touch. We will also oil the crank journals before they go in. It means you're not scoring things up before there's oil pressure. Can never have too much assembly lubricant, in my humble opinion. We don't want anybody scratching. You scratch, you get little curls of metal. Little curls of metal turn into big curls of metal. Those little bits then melt. Then you get chunks. Then you get big scores. Once you get big scores, you start losing oil pressure, you spin a bearing. You can clean up any mess you make down low in the block in a bit. Obviously, I've cleaned the plastic gauge off. You just use brake cleaner for that. You want to smear it all over the journal. No dry spots. Obviously this will all smear out when you tighten everything down as well, but what's the sense in guessing? Yes, this crank is that heavy that it's actually knocking me off balance. Ooh, there we go. Gently. How he's feeling. Silk. Already absolute butter. We're getting there, guys. One more. Well, one more silly one. And then the big lad at the back. That's it. Home free. Torque it. Hopefully spin it over with buttery ease. And then we'll know, when we can't turn it over by hand in a bit, that it's the con rods and not the crank. Please, God, no. Probably the fiddliest bit of the whole crank installation now. We've got these seals. So these go in these channels. There's a flange, you see that? You see the sort of C shape? Right, that goes towards the engine block. And the idea is, you've then got these pins, which have got a chamfered nose. You'll run these in. And basically, if you look at the side profile, as you drive the pins in, the seal lifts, and that's what seals it. We need to run a bead of silicone along here first. Install our rear main at the same time, because it saves us pissing around needing a special tool for it. So, first things first. Liberal splash of this. I'm going to put just a little bit on the lip of this as well so we don't shred up our rear main seal, because I ain't putting a clutch in this old girl, that's for damn sure. Right, there is a ridge where the old seal ran. We're going to just set this a little further away than that. We want this riding on a nice fresh bit of crankshaft. That'll do lovely, that. Right, bead of silicone there, about an inch long either side. Obviously you've also got to think what a ridiculously tight fit this cap actually is. So all we're doing is helping it out. We want to leave these a little proud, because then we know that they've settled on the surface that they're meant to settle on, like that. Don't panic or rush. It will go in a minute. All right, it'll get around to it. I'll tell you what, you're spinning a lot of plates doing this bit. Quite excited actually. And a 1, and a 2, and a 3, 4, 5, 6. Now the scary bit. Will it turn? Oh, That's immaculate. It's not tight, that's great. It's a heavy crank with ridiculously thick assembly lubricant in it, but you can see I'm not straining to turn it over at all. It's just fresh. With some thinner oil and a little bit of heat in there, I think she's going to spin like a top. So we're now waiting for piston rings, then we can put the rods in. You get your engine back. You can fucking well go away. You can go home. Wherever home is, you can go there. Cool, I'll see you guys in a few. We just need to check the end play now, or end float, whatever you want to call it. The end float is the amount the crankshaft's able to move forwards and backwards. Obviously you don't want it flapping in the breeze, that's going to cause you problems. You also don't want it so tight that it starts grinding things up. You just want it to have a little bit of a waver to it. There's a spec for that, naturally. So our end play should be 0.05 to 0.18 of a millimetre. That is 20 thousandths to 71 thousandths. Pretty straightforward job, to be fair. Take something soft so you don't mar up you don't want any little sprinkles of metal falling about in here. I've just got this knuckle bar. And then you want to go where your thrust washer is, and you're in the middle bearing. So one side, we shouldn't be able to get it down at all. Happy days. The other side, just put a bit of pressure on the crank, get it to move. Feeling just the slightest hint of a drag there. And now if I go over forwards a bit, I now shouldn't be able to get it down there, which I can't. Down here, yep, there's just a hint of drag. Feeler gauges are a very feely thing. You have to get used to the way they feel. Yeah, so we're at the bottom end of our end float range, which I would expect, to be honest with you, on a crank with this little wear to it and a brand new thrust washer. That makes sense to me. Today's the day the piston rings have finally showed up. Can't just slam piston rings in. These guys like to scrape up and down the bore, it's their job. So we need to make sure that they do that with the correct amount of tension on them. So we need to measure our piston ring gap. I'll show you how we do that in a second, but before we do anything, we need to clean these bores. I'm going to spare you. Cleaning this down is the same as cleaning the crankshaft down. Multiple stages, lots of clean cloths, till we've got all the gack out of here. It's only a preservative oil, but the dust sticks to it. So we need to clean this surface off. So I'll be back, I'll do that off camera. So I'm going to start with the first ring, and what I'm going to do is, as I clearance them and check everything's okay, if I measure this one and all's well, this guy is going to be cylinder one's top piston ring, right? I'm going to do that for all of them, and we know we're not accidentally mixing anything up. There shouldn't be any variation, but this just rules that completely out. We've checked the one that goes in here. We're also going to use a piston to push the rings in to make sure they sit square. Yeah, you want to go in perpendicular, then roll it round. It just makes it a little easier. You don't end up scratching the absolute piss out of everything then. There we go. We've just got the littlest gap here. Okay, as expected, we're a little looser in the hips than factory. We're well within our wear limit, which on this engine is 1 millimetre. That's huge. I'm taking an executive decision that we are within an acceptable tolerance. The important thing is our ring gap isn't too tight. Because if it was too tight, you've obviously got a piece of metal that whirly-woos round in here. As the heat builds up, those ends touch. The ring doesn't care that it's touching now, and it's just gonna keep going until it either breaks a piston ring or wrenches a big old scratch through this bore. Oh, I forgot to mention, good point to mention it now actually. These rings do have a top. You see that? So just make sure you put them in the right way.
And with so many things in an engine rebuild, it is just wash, rinse, repeat. So here I am doing all 6, and then we go back through with the second rings and the oil control rings. Every single one of them has a spec. Check the spec, make sure it's within an acceptable tolerance. Happy days, your rings are done. And then we can fit them to the piston. Time to find out if I remember to film that bit. We're getting close now. We really are getting close. This has been a long process and it felt great to feel this engine finally coming together.
I've installed our rod bearings, same procedure as with the mains. I've cleaned everything down meticulously, made sure we've got a nice amount of drag on our gloves, fitted them in. We do have a slight protrusion, which is excellent. We want it to crush into place as it goes. Piston rings, orient them 180 degrees out at corners, do you know what I'm saying? Where obviously the pin runs straight through. So we're good to go on that front. Now this guy needs lots of oil. We're gonna dry fit this with the piston ring compressor and what have you. We need to plastic gauge our crank. So the first thing I'm gonna do, turn our big end away for now. We're gonna oil the living daylights out of this. We don't want any oil on the crank. We're gonna plastic gauge it again. Then once we've done that, we just gently remove this, clean the journal down, assembly lubricant, and away we go. As per usual, I've read conflicting things about whether or not you should dip these in engine oil, smear them lightly, whatever. So for now, I'm gonna go for this stuff because it's a little thinner than the assembly lubricant. I don't want anything sticking on these. I want this to have oil around it. So we're gonna oil the bore. We will reorientate our rings in a second. So the trouble is, what we wanna do is not score our bores or hang anything up, but also we don't want to smother our big end in oil right now. We want the bores nice and lubricated. We've cleaned the bores, so we know we're not going to have a problem there. Plenty of it, you won't hurt it. The worst thing you're going to have is a smoky startup, and you're going to have that anyway while the piston ring's bedding. This is where these gloves come in really handy because you can just smear it round and then change your glove. Double check the orientation, just check everything twice if you need to. That's why they call it a double check. Get our piston ring compressor. Just a cheapie, doesn't need to be anything fancy. We're squashing piston rings, you know what I mean? We're not checking for run out on a jet engine. Squeeze the tab, which releases this guy. Holy smokes! Right, that's that. So make sure that your compressor is not turning the rings as you go, because otherwise all that hard work you just spent getting everybody lined up is gonna be for now, isn't it? And now we send her down. The old way is still the best way, just use the handle of a mallet. You want resistance because it means it's a tight fit-ish. Tight enough to compress. I didn't hear any as we sent it down in there, so I think we're all right. I've just tapped it down a bit because I want to make sure that we aren't scoring anybody. Happy, we're happy. I hate rotating this engine. It weighs a ton. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna ring and shell the other guys, fit everything, and then we're gonna flip the engine over. I'm gonna do that off camera. You don't need to watch me do the same job 6 times, do you, really? You're here for information and to watch me build an engine. I don't wanna watch me do this 6 times, but I have to, because these are in here. I'll see you guys in a bit. I've got the crank at this angle because it allows me to do the middle 3 bearings. Once we know if they're good, what I'm gonna do, release the caps, spray them back down, and then push the pistons up into the bores, blast a load of assembly lube around the shells, put them back in, and then we'll final tighten those. Then we can roll our crank round, do the end 2, wash, rinse, repeat, and our bottom end is built. It's really not that scary. This is the bit that, I mean, even I was worried about because this engine failed because of a bottom end fault. So, yeah. Cramshaft journal. That's for the cram. We want the cank. I never said that, you know what I'm saying. Measure connecting rod bearing clearance in the same manner as above. Tightening torque ways is also 33 to 40 foot-pounds. What's our specifications? Our plastic gauge is well within the range for this. So our rod bearing clearance wants to be 0.25 of a mil to 0.55 of a mil. That's quite a lot actually, that's over 0.5 millimetre of... So that equates to 10 thousandths up to 22 thousandths. Plastic gauge, let's go, where are we? There we go. Hello? Thought it was my anxiety again, it's not, we're good. I have 20 quid on that being the same car alarm that's been going off every 20 minutes for the last 3 weeks. The guy just doesn't seem to take the hint that you can't park a car with the windows down and leave the alarm armed. It's just not going in. I'm sure he could build the fuck out of a door, but he clearly doesn't understand how car alarms work. One other point of note to remember. This engine is now upside down to where it was when we put the pistons in. You're gonna laugh at me. You're gonna think I'm patronising you. But the front of the engine is now here. Just remember that, because obviously I've put my caps in order here, based on that engine being over there, that way up. This guy goes on the left. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now don't breathe, because you'll blow it away. 33 to 40 foot-pounds. Righto. I ain't convinced by that one. We're gonna do this one again. I just wanna double check that. That doesn't, something don't feel right. And this spun a bearing before. I ain't risking it. Not on your Nelly. So we're gonna clean that off. We're gonna do it again. Because guess what? Sort of, maybe, might be all right. Ain't good enough. It might have been an optical illusion, but I wanna double check. And guess what? There is a gap there. So we're gonna give this little fella a helping hand and bias towards this side as we run this down. And we're gonna gently run this cap down without the torque wrench first, just gently. I just wanna see if this gap will close up. If it won't close up at all, then I'll have another look at the mating surface. Okay, there we go. Right, what we're gonna do is redistribute our bearing surfaces. Don't pay no mind to Donna, by the way. Donna's a donor car, we don't have to worry about the paint, right? She might die. We're gonna do everything we can to avoid that, but just a heads up, Donna's a bench for a minute, all right? It's Ted's old bonnet anyway, it's gonna go in the bin. You won't let me forget to clean them off, will you? All right, appreciate it. It's all looking pretty good so far. I mean, that one looks a bit like a dick, but how is he? He is 0.38. I'm the mathematician, but that's in the middle. Remember, with plastic gauge, smaller is bigger. Sorry, but I'll explain. The more this stuff gets crushed, the more it spreads. The more it gets crushed, the smaller the space must be to squash the plastic gauge. If your strands are really dinky, you've got a bigger gap that's sort of, you know, like a squeaky toy. It's sort of gone hee on the plastic gauge. If it's malleted it, you've got a small gap. I hope that makes sense. I'm not seeing anything that's making me really panic, though. That guy's a little bit on the small side, but still well within our acceptable limit, as is he. These 4 caps are great. These 4 caps are great. Bottom end is now officially being buttoned up. Is beautiful. We're done. We're in the middle on all of them. Here goes nothing. How smoothly are we going to turn over fully laden with all our pistons, rods, big ends, etc.? I want it to spill oil everywhere. Quite happy with it doing that. Not bothered. All right, we're cleaning out the sump, and as you can see, we're panning for gold right now. So I'm just gonna let this quietly do this. We will come back and give it some encouragement, but there's no hurry. We've still got plenty of other bottom end stuff to sort. Yeah, look, man. Look at the chunks. Just letting it run through and drain out. My plan is clean all the crap down into the bottom of the sump, then give it a decent blast through. We've got our oil pickup soaking in some brake cleaner, which I'm gonna take advantage of and get rid of that white spirit off my hands. He is much happier than previous. So we're gonna fit our oil pickup. I just need to go and dig out the gasket for that. We're at a bit of a jaunty angle over yonder. I'm gonna try and start throwing the bottom end bits and pieces together. We'll final tighten the bearings, just double check nothing's loosened off overnight, because there was a bit of oil and stuff relaxing in there. And then we're looking at the head timing cover, oil pump, distributor. Christ, we're not far off, you know. It might look like it now. It's surprising how quickly it goes from a bare block to in here. Vroom. Oil pickup going in. Very good. Very good. Something I did on this assembly that it might be a good idea for you guys to do. Every part that had bolts going through it got put on the racking with the bolts through them. So I'm not in any doubt whatsoever as to what bolts are used on what. I will say this gasket, this pickup gasket, isn't great as far as the profile, but it seems quite happily doing its job. So probably just an odd revision where it had a slightly different profile. I like seeing gaskets that match perfectly, but we can't have everything. Wish in one hand, shit in the other, see which one fills up first, as I like to say. There we go, wheel pickup installed. Hello, it's me. Can you tell that I'm trying to cover the fact to cut all my hair off? I know, it looks like I'm wearing a wig normally. For all you know, that might be the case. Maybe that's why my hair changes so much. Anyway, look at where we're at. Let's go back to DaVinci Resolve. Right, I'm at the back end of the bottom end rebuild and we're at 37 minutes. All of this here is top end stuff and we're nowhere close to done. I feel like a massive video at this point with the size my channel is probably not the best idea. So it's not anything other than me just wanting to make the videos enjoyable for you guys to watch. So we're going to do bottom end now. I'm going to render the bottom end section of this video now and get it out tonight. And then next week we're going to be looking at the top end, timing up, making a timing chain essentially, because you have to get all the links right and clip everything together. It's a whole thing. As far as I know, the next video might be going all the way up to seeing if the engine will run. Hopefully some nice raughty straight six noises with them big triple Webers. But maybe not. I feel that 40 minutes for a video with this much information is about the limit. I think people are going to start getting pissed off if it's any longer than that. It gives you guys something to look forward to. It also, from a reference perspective, means if you're at the point of doing the top end on your L28 or just your engine, then you can pick that video. Okay, so that's the plan. Like I say, sorry if this is disappointing. I hope it's not. I really hope it's not. It's not done for any reason other than the fact I don't want to make a boring video that you guys are only going to watch half and go, fuck that. I don't want to sit through 2 hours of this. It's much better when you can break it down into chunks. I hope I've made it entertaining. I've tried to make it as entertaining as I can, but there are two factors. I'm at work and I'm trying to give you information over entertainment on this one. So I hope you can appreciate the fact that I've done my best. Great, right, I better start this rendering, although I do have a new computer that seems much happier doing this job, so that's a plus. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. You can find new videos around there or here, depending on what layout I've picked, and you can subscribe here or over here, depending on what layout I've picked. Has anybody figured out yet that I don't know how to run a YouTube channel? Because it's becoming a problem for me. Also, the ambassador is being picked up as we speak. And I can't wait to show you it because it sounds like it's wrecked. Anyway, I'll see you guys soon. Thanks very much. Sorry for the extreme close-up. Goodbye.